What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Paranormal Podcast, the Paranormal Council podcast of 2026. This is our first episode of 2026. I am looking forward to it. And guys, for all of you new viewers that's going to be watching us, if you want to check out all paranormal subjects from A to Z throughout our journey through all these subjects, like we are going to be covering everything. So make sure you subscribe, hit that notification stuff, share everything. Guys, let's build everything up. We want to have a great audience. So, with that being said, let's meet our esteemed Paranormal Council. So, for those of you that don't know, the Paranormal Council is a group of 4 members that are regular members, and they specialize in a variety of things in the field of paranormal. We have a little bit of knowledge, insight, perspective, if you will, on all things paranormal related at some point. Well, and then we will also occasionally have some guests. And of course, we may rotate in different substitute members when some of us are sick or on vacation or just playing hooky. All right, so let's go around and let's meet the council members. Stacy, let's start out with you, and why don't you let a little people know a little bit about your background?
Okay. I'm a professional remote viewer. I have courses on Udemy on how to do remote viewing, professionally trained from Major Ed Dames, who was in the actual military program. It's called Project Stargate that, ran the show. And I had one-on-one training with him. And now I teach on Udemy myself. Also a priest of Palo Mayombe and practice Santeria. If you don't know what Palo Mayombe is, don't worry about it because most people don't. It's an African tradition that came over during the slave trade, and it basically is the mother religion of voodoo, uh, where you get a lot of the stuff in New Orleans and hoodoo and all of that. The mother religion of that was called Palo Mayombe, which basically is shamanism. It Palo means stick and Mayombe means medicine, so it's a medicine man kind of thing. But uh, I've been in IT for 20 years, so I'm really focused on practical applications when it comes to spirituality. I'm not one of those gurus from California. Just feel the universe, man. You just gotta like feel the cosmic consciousness. I'm not that way. It's all about practical application in what you can apply in your life, and that's essentially what I teach.
Nice, Chanel. What? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
All right. Well, let's see. I will identify as 29 years old at least for another 10 years. I live in Middle Tennessee. I have 3 kids, and I have a husband. And we live in Murfreesboro, so about 45 minutes or so south of Nashville. I'm a paranormal investigator and have been in the field since 2018. I am the owner and director of Elite Vixen Paranormal. So we are an all-female team based out of Nashville. I've been researching paranormal. It really kind of started when I was like about 17, 18 years old. When I moved in with my dad. And I'm originally from York, Pennsylvania, and our house was haunted. And I realized then that it was haunted because my dad had been keeping a whole secret from me, which was rude of him, by the way. Thanks, Rocky. But I also have a degree in psychology, master's degree, and in counseling. So I do a lot when it comes to like psychology in the field. I do a lot of the consults. I work with, there's a like demonologist that's local that he is like, hey, I think this might be a like psych case, more than a demonic case. And So I do a lot of consultation with him. I also like mentor others in the field, specifically females in the field. One of my big things, there's been like brand new teams that I've mentored, because building a team from the ground up, with of course the help of like my teammates, right? Especially the one that founded our team, Samantha. She's my partner in crime and my best friend. And so, those early foundational things, there's so much to learn, especially if you want to like make it a legit business, instead of just like a hobbyist, because my friends there. But yes, I do a lot of mentoring, a lot of business type things also, like I said, for newer teams. Identify as an intuitive empath. Sometimes I know things, but definitely not a medium or anything like that. Not that spiritually gifted. Oh, I'm also an ordained minister, so I can do weddings and funerals, and it helps with cleansings and things like that also. Yeah, I think that's enough about me.
Okay. All right. And Jen, you want to share your experience?
I mean, I can if you make me. I don't know. For me, paranormal's always been a part of my life, because from my earliest memories as a very young child, I had experiences. I was seeing full-bodied apparitions even as a toddler and talking to them, and it was a normal part of my life. It wasn't until I was about 7 years old that I realized through an experience that it wasn't normal. I thought everybody did. I thought that's just how the world was. And I started really leaning on that side because that's where I felt comfortable, and started exploring what I now know. And as a kid, I didn't know, as energy work, as intuition, and kind of like mediumship abilities. Did a lot of that. Then I started doing solo residentials for a long time. Don't necessarily recommend that because it's kind of dangerous. But I did that for a long time, helping people in their homes. I didn't actually join a team or do a team thing until a couple of years ago. I started consulting with a lot of teams, helping them out. And then finally I started Rooted Journey Paranormal. That was a blast. Huge learning experience. Leading a team is a totally different ball game. And now, of course, here we are with Soulfire Paranormal and with the Paranormal Council. And I'm excited because I know all the things we're going to talk about in upcoming episodes, and I can't wait.
Yeah, and that's true. And of course, my name's Josh Morris. I'm a ghost hunter. But all right, no, I'm just kidding. That's my bio, right? I'm a ghost hunter. There you go. No, like many people, I had experiences when I was young, and then eventually, probably about 30 years ago, I started to actually do things and go to locations. And back then, it was just flashlights and all that. And then the reality shows came out, and we all had teams. And so, I was fortunate enough that my team in Florida at the time got to do some preliminary investigations for one of the reality shows. That was a big thing for us. And then just over the years, just done countless investigations, been out there in the field, pounding sand off and on, and doing things with Paraflix now, with original series. And then, of course, lately here, starting some new projects like the Soulfire Paranormal with Jen, and of course the Paranormal Council with the rest of us here. So that's about it for me. But guys, that was great. So the subject that we're going to talk about, tonight's subject, we're only going with one subject tonight. We may dip off into some others, but folks, for those of you watching, we have a lot of subjects that we all talked about the other week, and we all met ahead of time and discussed what subjects we want to talk about coming up this year, and we have a ton. You're not going to want to miss, trust me. But tonight's subject is going to be looking into 2026, right? We're going to talk about 2026 and the paranormal. We'll look at some different aspects of that. So the first thing I want to throw out to the council is, okay, so 2026, what do we predict as far as teams? Are we going to see people more getting into paranormal, or are we going to see a dip in paranormal? What do we think? What's your guys' perspectives on that? Who wants to jump in first?
I think those are two different subjects.
Okay.
Is it teams we're talking about, or is it people? Because we all know the average is anywhere from 12 to 15 months on average until they split. I don't know if you guys did actually know the statistics. Y'all are like, really? It's like, well, look on the face. That's 12 to 15, and
Anybody going to tell her?
Wait.
I think her earbuds disconnected or something.
All right, Chanel, we can't hear you. Can you hear us? Okay. Chanel. We can't. Yeah, so we can't hear Chanel, so we'll let her sort that out. All right. I'll throw in an opinion on this. Like, I think the industry with teams is going to. I think the teams is going to be interesting to see what teams that we end up getting this year. I think it'll fluctuate. I don't know if we're going to get more or less, but I think, certainly we could look at it. I think it just depends on what we start seeing from the industry. I would be really curious to find out if the industry is going to start going up, and I think some of that may be on where people start viewing it from, especially with AI in the introduction of paranormal. But that's a whole other subject in that sense. But
Chanel's really cute down there arguing with her computer with her facial expressions.
right. So
You're talking, and she's like, no, but she's yelling at her computer.
And like, what would be a first podcast episode without technical difficulties? Okay.
Right?
There.
Okay.
I can hear you now.
How about now?
All right. Now we hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what happened because like it was connected like through my AirPods, and then my AirPods were like, no. Okay, so I don't even know what y'all heard, and I was running my mouth.
Well, it didn't go very long. So if you want to get back into your discussion about,
we got about one or two sentences, and then the rest of it was just pantomime.
Okay, so, well, I mean that I figured y'all could read lips, and there we go. Closed caption, yes, that's what we need. Closed captioning here. But no, I was saying that like I feel like that those are two different questions. Like, are we going to see new teams, or are we going to see new people enter the field? And then I was saying that like the average team only lasts anywhere from like 12 to 18 months. And I feel like that statistic may actually be a little bit like generous at this point in time, because things happen, right? And so like having new teams enter, absolutely, we're going to see that. Having new, like we're going to see teams come and go over 2026 throughout the whole year. Having new people, I think, is different because like there was a trend for like the TikTok thing, right? People getting on TikTok and, doing that. And then like the YouTube thing where like people were like live streaming there, and like that's still a thing, but I don't know if it'll be the same people that are just like doing it, or if we're going to see that, because I feel like that the trend to like join TikTok, for instance, has like decreased because that was real big back in like 2020. So that's kind of my opinion on it. Is like, yeah, we're going to see new teams. I don't know that we're going to see a lot of new people though.
Okay. Stacy, Jen, y'all have an opinion on it?
Well, I think it's gonna be throughout the year. You're gonna see two different phases. The first part of the year, uh, it's gonna be a fade out kind of thing, where a lot of teams and a lot of groups that the OGs are getting either pushed out or are just fatigued on themselves, and you're not going to see any real resurgence of new teams and new, uh, I don't know, influencers, I guess you'd call them now, where the second half of the year, the economy is actually going to start to uh, pick up. So there's going to be a lot of extra, uh, you know, cash that they're going to have. They're going to spend on, whatever, you know, YOLO they're going to be in on, and that is going to start to build and gain momentum all by itself. But a lot of it is more economically based, economically driven, as opposed to, uh, a new rise of the technology, like the AI or anything like that. It's going to be more economic on who's going to do what and who's going to rise to the top. And it's authenticity is going to be key, because if you start doing stuff in AI, people are just going to dump you, because this whole AI slop thing is really, messing with people. They don't like it. And as AI even improves, you're getting more and more anger out there that somebody's actually faking it. So it's all about the authenticity, and anybody who comes along and is authentic in what they're doing, they're the ones that are going to draw. And again, it's going to be focused on economics, because authenticity takes money, equipment, locations, travel, all the stuff that goes into actually having a successful, channel and team. And just, there's a lot of money there right now.
So keep that in mind, folks, that when you watch this podcast, none of us are AI. We are genuine and authentic. So there you go. Just keep that in mind, folks. Jen, you got anything to add?
I mean, I think there's all different ways to look at it. One of the things that I was noticing, especially like towards the end of last year, and I'm even seeing a little bit more of it now, is, we talk about all these new teams coming in, but a lot of that's happening, I think, because there's a lot of people that are going solo or just going with a team of two. So larger teams are splitting into smaller teams, or literally there's a lot more, I think, in as far as collaboration goes with smaller groups of people as opposed to the larger teams. And I think there's pros and cons to that. I mean, it doesn't say a whole lot for, some of the teams that are out there that people are always wanting to split off of because they don't feel welcome, or their different opinions are causing refs or poor behavior or whatever else is going on, right? That's causing teams to split. But on the other side of that, I think it's really good because people are on their own journeys and exploring the way they want to, and meeting all kinds of new people, having all new experiences, and learning throughout the entire process. So I think in 2026, we're going to see a lot more singles and doubles as far as teams, all under new headings of a team, than we have, in the recent past. But I mean, that's just one part of it that I've noticed, and I think is going to kind of continue when people are finding their independence in their own beliefs and their own ways of approaching things. And honestly, their frustration with things like Stacy was talking about, if you're not authentic, right? And that they aren't going to tolerate it, so they're going to go do their own thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, and those are all good points. And I would kind of hit a few of those points and say that I think both you guys all bring up good points on that. And what I want to say is on the formatting of the shows. So I think, Stacey, you were kind of talking about the burnout factor, stuff like that. Jen, you were talking about the reduction in teams. I think there's a combination of that where the formatting, there's the old format of the shows, which sometimes is tried and true. You have that certain that look to the show, that sort of cable TV look. There is something to be said about that, but at the same time, even some of those people are stepping away from the traditional television format of presenting paranormal. So, uh, so I think that's a factor. What I would like to present to you guys is, what do you guys think of um, the format? Like, what do you guys see coming into 2026? Are we going to see some different ways that paranormal is being presented to people versus like the old school 4-man team kind of like formats and um, stuff like that? Obviously, with the integration of shorts, lives, those type of things, where do you guys see the paranormal shows or videos, the things that are going out to the public? What kind of format do you guys see those in?
I think it depends on the investigator and who's presenting it. Because, like Stacy said, I feel like that there's going to be a lot of AI generated stuff just to get the TikTok views or just to get the clicks. That way, then, especially with all the monetization that goes on, which I'm fully for monetizing. And I actually support, like, if you want to put that out there, as long as there's that disclaimer of, hey, this is for entertainment purposes only, or this is AI generated. Like, as long as there's clarity and authenticity in that, then, go get your YouTube coins. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I think that's what we're going to see when it comes to, like, evidence. And you're right, Josh. A lot of people have, like, stopped putting out evidence or, like things like that, because there's so much competition and stuff, and everybody's going to find a way to, like, well, I shouldn't say everybody, but you know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people are going to be like, that's false, that's fake, that's fake, that's fake, especially with that, like, AI thing. Even if it's 100% real, and it's like, no, this is raw footage. So I think live streaming may actually increase just to keep it authentic, now that we're talking about this. But, still, live streams can be AI generated. So.
Oh, yeah. Live streams have definitely been used for what I dub the term paranormal laundering. Mm-hmm. And so, it's when people go live, they still have hidden people around corners doing things, but because you can't see them or the angle of the live, and then people watch it and they say, oh, no, it's got to be real because it was live. So that's paranormal laundering. It's got to be real. It can't be fake. They were live. Well, no, you can definitely fake things during lives, for sure. So, but I do think that brings up an interesting point, Chanel, with the live stuff. I think that could be a possibility. Stacy, Jen, what do you guys think on the format of stuff this year?
Well, the format is going to change based off of the algorithm of whatever site you've got going on. TikTok has a different algorithm as opposed to YouTube. YouTube is changing the way that they're pushing content with the long format, with stories, where you're actually doing more documentary style stuff as opposed to, like street takeovers, where it's just people doing stunts to try and get the clicks. YouTube's suppressing those more in the algorithm as opposed to you walking through a cave and talking about what the cave used to be 10,000 years ago, or it's a mine, or different things like that. You're actually walking people through the story as an adventure. That's the kind of format YouTube's currently trying to push in the algorithms. Whether that maintains itself or they decide to switch things up again to whatever is going on, but it's right now a lot of OG channels. I'd watch a lot of car content, the car channels with the going to the racetrack, or guys doing drifting or doing 0 to 60 on a drag strip, things like that. And YouTube is actually starting to suppress those kinds of things because that's not what they want to promote. They want to do the stories. So these guys are actually doing long format stories about how they got their cars and how they got their business. And if you're lucky, in a 1 hour video or a half-hour video, you get 5 minutes of the car. And it's just these guys talking about themselves the whole time, because that's what YouTube's pushing. And you're going to start to see that with paranormal too. They're going to be, talk the history of the place that you're investigating, what tragedy happened there, or what scandal happened there, or what, basically telling the story of the location that you're at to create that suspense, rather than walk in blind and find out afterwards, like a lot of places like to do. They don't want to pollute or front load the information, especially when you're dealing with psychics. Psychics, you don't want to front load any information. They want to know nothing when they walk into a place. And that's kind of difficult to do when you're telling the whole damn story while you're investigating the place,
Yeah.
So it's kind of a catch-22 on that front. But the formats are going to be different, as the algorithms change.
Yeah. No, I agree. Jen, what you got? You want to add anything on that?
I mean, I agree with that too. And I think honestly, the audience is really the algorithms affect it, but the audience itself is really going to affect it, right? I think there are so many people now that they want that like 2-second high, right? They want to be engaged, they want to have excitement, and then they want it to be over and move on to the next one. They're constantly looking for that. So I feel like things like the short TikTok videos or all the videos that you see in Facebook posts and things like that, I feel like that's where you're going to see a lot more of it. And some of the shows that are out there, I don't know. I mean, there's going to be a target audience for that, but I think you're going to have a totally different target audience for the other things that you're putting out as well. I don't think it's going to be one or the other. I think it's going to be a combination of both, but it's just going to kind of be which platform is the most supportive or conducive to what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, and that makes sense. Like, so, both, like Stacey talking about long form, you're talking about short form, and I think both are still going to be viable for 2026, obviously. And I think that, in my opinion, you're right, Jen. I think we're gonna have a spot for everything for both. So if you put out, say, like a regular, I think if you kind of start focusing your show long form to be more informative, right? Like more content driven, more story driven versus just showing up a little small, whatever, and then it's just nothing but, running around in the dark with some IR. If it's just that, then I don't think people will sustain that anymore. But I think, like Stacey talks about story, so I think that having a long form content where people can watch, they can see the story, history, interviews, which I know some shows do that now, and those will probably be those longer term. They're the reasons why they have a better production value, and they have more subs, and they have they're gonna make it through this. So I think if you put out the long form, you need to have content, like good quality content, story content. But then I think, Jen, you're also right. I think you need to put out shorts and clips and things like that also. And then if you see that, for example, if your return on your long form and your short form, if there's certain platforms and you're seeing quality returns, then obviously you can start to kind of zero in and say, well, people like when we go to abandoned places versus historical homes or people's personal homes, like residentials or something. You can start to kind of zero in where you get more views, where you get more, and you can kind of hamper in on some of that. But I do think that there's some of that. So since we talked about the format, of the shows and where they are looking at going down the road here, what do you guys see as far as um, like with drama in the paranormal in 2026? I know it's a can of worms, and that's kind of a subject in its own. But I thought in a way, because we did talk about it as a subject, and we probably may revisit this. But clearly, going into 2026 with these new formats and like the way that paranormal is, the state of condition that paranormal is, what do you guys think about the overall picture of drama in 2026?
I have a very different kind of in-your-face controversial opinion about all of it.
We're
I'll
here to
just
be
go ahead and spit it
controversial.
out because why not, right? Here's my thing.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my thing. We keep bringing attention to it with all these conversations about para-unity and about drama and different things like that. And in my opinion, the more we talk about it, the bigger it gets, right? And at the base level of this, there are crappy people everywhere. There are people who are angry and hurting other people. There are people who are hurting and don't know what to do with it everywhere. There are people who are trying to climb over other people to get to the top everywhere. There's manipulators and users everywhere. And there's good people too who are just trying to, you know, be smart and do the right thing and help others. And I also understand that like there's that idea of like if we were back in Gen X days, like all of us remember, we just take them on the playground out back and be done with it, right? We don't do that anymore. We can't do that anymore. But
I
also
still would.
don't want to encourage it, I guess, give it more fuel, because the same people that have those conversations and do those things are people who thrive off of drama and being a victim and perpetuating that, right? And so I don't know, I guess there's a lot of ways to change the subject, change the narrative, push the field in a different direction away from it. But we're never going to get away from it. I don't think so anyway.
Yeah, as much as I would love to say that the drama is going to end in 2026, I don't think that it will. I feel like that it will decrease, actually, because I feel like that the field is actually getting less competitive since, at least in America, like the TV shows aren't what they used to be. You know what I mean? And that was like the big driver of the competition, which Josh, you could probably attest to that. Was like, I'm going to be on TV, and since it's not like that anymore, really, I feel like that I'd love to say that the competition is going away. I think it's decreasing, but it's not fully going away yet. But hopefully it won't be as bad.
Okay. Stacy, anything you want to add?
Yeah, it's human nature. The drama's not going anywhere because there's been drama since mankind's, stood upright. There's no getting around it. It's all about power, influence, attention. The things that both men and women crave. Men crave power, women crave attention, and paranormal's got, 2 scoops of both. So it's not going anywhere anytime soon. And, the he said, she said, it's come to the point where like the Paracons are more of a get together and update everybody on the latest, hoo-ha that's going on with somebody else. So that's
Yeah.
I don't see it changing anytime soon.
Yeah, and I would just add that I would like to be optimistic. I don't know if Chanel would be right on this. Who knows? I hope she's right, and we do get a reduction in drama this year. That would be great. I personally try not to ever participate. I think if you have a podcast, like, don't talk shit about other people or hint around or whatever. Like, just do your shows, go do your investigations, help people out, entertain people, but leave the drama behind. Like, swallow your ego, whatever the case is. And I understand that there's general grievances out there. There's all kinds of subjects, and we probably will do an episode where we dive into even deeper on some of the subjects that unfortunately have drama around them in the paranormal, and maybe ways that we could try to avoid those in the future.
Well, the problem is that it's monetized now.
Right.
Drama is monetized. The people on TikTok, they do stupid stuff just so they can get the clicks. And if they can dramatize and create that drama, they're going to get the views. And that's what they're really going for. They don't really care necessarily about the drama itself. They just want to create it to add to their clout.
Sure. And get the clickbait.
Yeah, it's money. It's not even so much as a vanity project anymore. It actually, it has tangible, results. So,
and I think that goes kind of back to the authenticity thing that, we've kind of all hit on tonight. Like, because there are people out there who legitimately could blow up and don't say anything about the things that are going on. But then the people that want to create that just, because that way then they can make their money. But there are plenty of people out here in this field that there's things going on that nobody knows about.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that kind of goes back to like what I was saying earlier about how a lot of these teams are splitting and people are, more people are going solo, right? Because I think there's a lot of people, especially if you've been in the field for, 5 years, you've been around long enough to learn the ups and downs, the pros and cons, and you're kind of over all of it. They're starting to get back to, why am I doing this in the first place? What is this for? What do I hope to get out of it? And anything that, it's that whole idea of let go of what doesn't serve you, right? If it's not helping you accomplish what you're doing, then we're not doing it anymore. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot of people exiting teams and going solo, going to smaller teams with people that they know more personally. But on the other side of that, I think also that, what Stacey's saying is right. I mean, it all depends on what your motivation is. If you are looking for the attention and the monetization, you're going to go a whole different way. And when you have team members that don't align on that, that's kind of difficult,
Yeah. And I want to kind of curb a little bit over into, I think some of like an aspect of what you're saying, Jen, on when people are in these teams, things happen. Sometimes, having multiple personalities, especially unique personalities in the paranormal. Like, let's face it, we're not always normal people. So having a group of different people together trying to accomplish something can be a challenge. So, trying to have meetings and, who's pulling their weight, who's not pulling their weight, and also what's the quality of life in that team. And I think one thing that I've witnessed over my years working with a variety of teams, investigating with them, sitting back, watching teams operate, the teams that I notice are the more solid teams are the ones that traditionally have a little more of a mentorship system, where the people that join the team, they're more of that intern. They're more of that, they want to learn. And then the seniors in the team do teach them, and they do it in a productive and positive manner. When you can help develop and foster people in their journey, that makes it much more fulfilling team to be on. But when you get on a team, if you maybe you could have a leader that kind of wanders around. They don't know how to like lead. They really don't like organize things very well. So the team is at locations kind of misguided. They don't know what to quite do. So it's kind of a cluster. And so that can cause people to want to leave teams or even talk shit about their leaders. Drama then ensues because it spreads in the community, all those things. And then, or you may have leaders that just treat their team members like they are roadies, and to just bring in equipment and haul this, set up this, do that. And so there's definitely different dynamics in these teams that so yeah, like if you're in one of those teams, you're gonna quit, and you're gonna be like, you know what, and then so you might find that, hey, maybe like me and so are like a good dynamic duo, and it's better to not have to worry about 3 other people or multiple other people, and so maybe that smaller man combination may start to work, especially when we live in a society now where drama seems to turn around at every corner. We have social media, so I think, yeah, we may see that smaller, more tight knit teams because of all those different reasons. So, one subject I also wanted to kind of talk about a little bit as far as formatting and the shows and things like that. So, what is your guys' take on the content of the shows themselves? Like, do we really need to still be explaining what an EMF is? Do we still have to basically dummy proof the content for paranormal for people out there, or are we in a society where a majority of people that watch paranormal have the basics, the basic education by now? Or like, what do you guys think?
I think it depends on your target audience. So there's a difference when your target audience is like millennials and Gen X and boomers, and then versus Gen Z and Gen Alpha specifically, which I have opinions on children in the field. But
oh, hey, we have a rule. I have a rule. Well, I had a rule when I had a team, was no one under 18.
Same. I had the rule also. In fact, my insurance was like nobody under the age of 18
Right.
for my team, my liability insurance. But there are people though that fully do that and like support that and foster that. And like I support that in that aspect, but for personally, it was not a thing. But so if your target audience is like Gen Z, if they're brand spanking new, they're not going to know. But the older one, right? Well, and even actually that I guess goes across all generations if they're brand spanking new. But I feel like that millennials and up, that's when paranormal TV shows were in their heyday, right? It was 20 years ago. So we all got a pretty good understanding of what an EMF meter is. But I do think that there's value in still teaching and training that, especially using the equipment correctly and not just sitting there and making the REM pod go off with your walkie while you're live streaming on TikTok to get your galaxies. Because people that know, wait a minute, is that being activated by something else off screen? But brand new people who've never seen that before be like, oh, that's so cool. You know what I'm saying? So I think there's value in that.
Yeah. And we got kind of a question here. Like, do you have a primer series to send people to so it can be glanced over during beefy episodes?
I don't know if there's a show. Go ahead, Stacey.
I was just going to say, I don't know. In today's world, I mean, Gen X, we kind of have to know things ahead of time. It's life experience we've developed over time. We know this, we know that. Gen Z skipped right over all of that, and now everything is ChatGPT. If they have a question on anything, they just ask ChatGPT, and they get a 300-word summary of exactly what you're talking about. And most of the time, it's pretty close to being right. And that's only going to get better. So as far as having to explain what an EMF is, like right now, I have a little Gemini uh, icon on my browser, my Chrome browser, and it will look at the current tab that's open. And if I'm watching a video with Josh is doing something, I have no idea what he's talking about, I can ask Gemini, what is he talking about? And it will summarize everything based off the content of that video. I don't even have to ask the question. I just have to ask, what is he talking about? And, AI will, do the research, whether or not it's real, whether it's not real, what the theory is, what this particular scientist said about it, all kinds of other things that weren't necessarily in the video. It will do the deep research on the fly. And having to essentially tutor in your videos or in your episodes, what is EMF, what is a ghost, what is, you know, anything that's in the paranormal, it's already out there. It's just a matter of the context in which you're using it in your presentation. Um, Having to educate really isn't part of the deal anymore.
Okay. Jen, what do you think? You want to add anything on that?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like, anybody who wants to know something, they're going to go learn it. Right? Like when Ghost Hunters
Mhm.
first came out, we didn't have ChatGPT. We wanted to know what the
Yeah.
equipment was they were using. We had to go figure it out. So if they actually want to learn and they want to
Mhm.
grow and they want to answer their questions, it's so much easier now. So they can go do it. I feel like for those that are watching the show because they're trying to learn more, trying to experience new things, working on their own intuitions about what they're watching or things like that, doing those things can kind of take away from that experience so the audience doesn't necessarily grow with you,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I would add that I think, again, with all you guys make great points. Um, I like saying that because you guys are making great points. I love this council. So, uh, no, I would say I think both what Jen you talked about earlier with it's sort of the future in shorts. I think shorts are going to hit, especially with the younger generation, whereas the stories, the longer form, is going to hit with the older generations. So I think in your longer formats, yeah, you can still pause and say, like, just like the shows used to do when you're like, hey, we captured an EVP or something, and then there could be like a little short saying, an EVP is an electronic voice phenomenon, whatever. There could be like a little thing that comes up on the screen or a little definition, something. I still think those could be included in the longer story formats, but for the short formats, those are just going to be like clips of actual events. It's not going to be a clip of explaining what a K2 meter is or something like that. So I think, to me, that's where I would see where educating as far as the basics goes. Now, if there's some more advanced stuff, obviously you're going to want to have those things in there. I want to get to two more little subcategories here real quick, but also I wanted to circle back to DeBreeberg's question about a primer series. Were you asking if we had series like stuff out there for you to watch or something, or are you just talking about something in general? Because I can always refer you to like Teps Investigates and things like that, and of course, you can watch the podcast here every Thursday for great information as well. But if you want field stuff, we all, some of us have stuff that we were out in the field and did some series.
Okay, small little disclaimer here. I'm gonna throw this out there. That's Deb. She's one of my best friends. I've known her for almost 20 years. Um, so she has access to people with information.
Mm.
Okay.
Catfishing.
So the subcategories I want to get into during this last bit of time here is, one is we kind of talked about the shows, talked about the teams. What do you guys think about for equipment wise? There's a lot of gizmos and gadgets that coming up or that have came out. Is there something that you guys want to see, like some kind of fantasy device or something, or what do you predict on devices and stuff for 2026?
I will say that I was at a thing Tuesday night. up in Kentucky. And I don't want to give too much information, but I think that like the things that can be done with LiDAR and ground penetrating radar, something happened and they caught something. And I was like, oh my gosh, because it was undeniable. I don't know, Jen, did you see that stream I'm talking about?
I didn't, but I've actually been looking at LiDAR and some of the different applications of it. And, you know, with all of these different technical things that we're talking about, all the pieces of equipment and stuff, they all have a purpose. They all can be useful. However, I think in a lot of cases, and we see it all the time as investigators, we're seeing other people's videos, we're seeing other team stuff, their, you know, lives, and we're going, what are you doing? Because at the end of the day, we're investigators, right? And there has to be some truth in it in the process of investigating. And if you're not using any of it correctly, it's not going to be helpful information. You're going to get so much false information. And like, I can't tell you how many investigators I've actually talked to who don't understand the scientific method and how it works. It's almost like they didn't go through, you know, 7th, 8th grade science class and study it. And then they're trying to do investigations and they're trying to utilize all these tools. And they think just because it's the new hot tool that came out, all of a sudden they're going to get truthful information regardless of how they use it. So I think that has a lot to do with it, as well as the actual advice itself.
Well, yeah, that's like people using like a K2 meter, like an EMF meter, and when it goes off, they're like, "Oh, it's a ghost." You know, they use it like a ghost detector or something. So, you know, I think good point. You should, no matter what technology we see, it's good to see the results, but can we also use other equipment to try to validate or cross validate those and see if we're actually getting paranormal results, you know, confirming something weird, or if it's just, you know, maybe we're picking up on, you know, the local airport or something, you know. I mean, so so that's a good point. Stacy, you want to add stuff about equipment here?
Well, I'm not a big equipment guy. I mean, I've been in IT for 20 years. I've been around a lot of electronic and computerized things for decades. So as far as the paranormal is concerned, the technology is, I find, unimpressive. What is coming about in very short order with quantum computing and the way that they're building quantum computers and the new chipsets, the scaffolding, the way that they're creating this new technology to do other things with quantum computing. The ultimate power in computing is quantum computing. So of course that's what it's for. But the engineers who are creating it are seeing weird things they can't explain. And they're literally calling it ghosts in the machine. And they found that if they, because they're building these chipsets at the atomic level in lattices, and they've found that if the atomic structure is tilted ever so slightly at 1.1 degrees, all kinds of weird things start to take place, where they're getting almost intuitive information rather than processed information that's coming from someplace else other than the machine itself. And and the whole concept of this whole thing, where they're actually getting to the point where the paranormal will be scientific fact, could actually happen before the end of this year because of it, where there won't be anything that is, you know, ghosts, UFOs, dude, they're so lame. I don't know. It's going to be, computers will be telling you what it is and what it isn't, because they're part of it. They got one foot in that realm. So that's where I'm at. I'm not the current stuff that's out there, the fantasy stuff, whatever, but I'm just hearing what's happening in the world of quantum computing, and these guys are freaking out because they're atheists. and they
Right.
don't understand any of this stuff. And it's I giggle because it's like what mankind has been saying for 10,000 years. They're just turning around and saying, "Yeah, guess what we found out."
Well, I would say for those of you watching, if you love that discussion, we will be talking more about quantum computing and AI and all of that and how it affects the paranormal. That is an upcoming subject that we will dive in even deeper, folks. I just want to add that I'm a fan of the equipment. I am because that's all we have right now. I mean, I don't freaking have a damn quantum computer or a computer to do quantum physics right now. I don't have that, so I have to go by. And for me, when I use like an epic box or something like a yes no box, and I can get responses, and sometimes even cross validated with dowsing rods at the same time, or temperature changes, whatever. When you can get that cross validation, sometimes it's awesome. So I think there's something to some of these instruments. It is hard to prove to people still, because all these instruments generally have a different purpose. But I still think that obviously spirits can manipulate these devices correctly. I just think it's also falls on the team or whoever's handling them to properly use those, or properly keep an open mind and take some of that with a grain of salt. You have to, like, if you just sit there and that's what always annoyed me when I watch people, and all of a sudden they get something on a spirit box or something that it is definitely, like, they said that, like, that is a hard word, like, it's you got to be open-minded. You got to take things, and like I said, you have to cross validate to try to utilize some of these devices. I think we will see definitely some newer devices coming up in 2026. I know I'm personally involved in a few, so that's why I had to bring that up as well. We are getting ready to launch, or I'm helping to launch. It's not my idea, but we've got a few things coming up. So I'm excited for that, and hopefully those can be additional tools to utilize in the field for people. Now, the one last thing, I want to hurry up, and we don't have a lot of time, so I just want to get your guys' overall quick opinion, and this is probably going to be not quick, but we talked about all the physical side of 2026 coming up. What about the overall spiritual implication of 2026? The world is in a crazy place right now. There's a lot of good things happening in the world. We are getting a lot of good things happening overseas, more peace in the Middle East. The country's got some civil war stuff going on, but it's not all bad. There's a lot of positives and negatives. Again, not trying to get into specific politics or anything, but there's a little bit of good, a little bit of bad out there in the world. So overall, how does that zeitgeist look? I mean, how does the paranormal feel about this spiritually for 2026? What are we looking at?
You want me to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
Anybody?
Well, again, we're going to be dealing with economic issues that will have a tendency to sour the public opinion for the at least half the year, and the thing that the current administration is going to have to get past is that not everything is rosy, and not everything is awesome, and not everything is going just great, and your numbers aren't awesome for everyone. They may be great for Wall Street, but they're not great for everyone. And ignoring the lower middle class and lower is a death knell. You just don't want to do that. But the second half of this year is actually going to be a boom, because a lot of the things that are happening now take time to basically marinate and cook. And the second half of this year, you're going to see a big uptick in everything across the board: money, jobs, You're going to see deflation rather than inflation, meaning your money's actually going to go further. You're not going to spend, $25 on a McDonald's cheeseburger. It's going to be, the prices are going to start coming down again because a lot of the messed up stuff that had been taking place for the last 5 years is being shown the door. And, it's going to be recycled out, and the monies that are being allocated are going to go to the places they were meant to go in the first place, rather than all of the fraud and the scams and all of the money launderers that have infested the system like a tick. That's going to work itself out, and people are going to start feeling it. They're going to be like, hey, these numbers are pretty good. I'm actually able to make my car note now, or I'm able to buy a new car. I'm able to buy a new car for half the price it was a year ago. Things like that. People are going to start to feel it, but it's not going to happen until after June, July, and into August.
So 2026, you're saying optimism, there is a chance.
Yes.
All right. I'm not going to add much to that. Jen, Chanel, what do you think? Anything? No?
I'm over here like, come on, June and July, so I can get a new car, according to Stacy. Please.
Hey, come on, Daddy needs a new car.
Yeah, for half the price.
Right.
It shouldn't be $50,000 for a Ford Taurus. It's those things for $10,000 tops.
If that, Ford Taurus. Anyways, I wouldn't pay anything for a Ford. Just kidding. For Ford people, love y'all. Not really. Okay, so guys, we're gonna wrap it up. So hope you guys enjoyed the first round of Paranormal Council in 2026. Guys, if you love this content, trust me, this was just the tip of the iceberg, folks. We have a ton of topics where we will be diving even deeper into. So we just wanted to kind of cover and get to know y'all out there. So now you guys got to know us a little bit. So stay tuned, share. We'll see you every Thursday at 9 p.m. You can find us here at Soulfire, the YouTube channel. We're also streaming to, I believe, Facebook, and I'm streaming to X. So we are actually triple streamed out there tonight. So thank you all for showing up, guys. Thank you all in the comments and for all your participation, guys. We will see you next week. And remember, let's seek the truth together.
Peace.